Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Grandma. It's Kim and my co-host,
Grandma Gail.
So this week we are going to have an interview with Aleeza Ben Shalom from the Jewish Matchmaker. We'll get to that in just a little bit. We recorded it in New York, so we'll toss to that. But in the meantime, Grandma, how are you?
I'm good. Everything is good. Busy. A lot of bridge when you weren't here. So I caught on some bridge lessons, got a little sharper on the game. You know, when you don't play for a month or so, you get rusty.
You were playing even when I was here, though.
Yeah, but not as much. Now I took like 2 lessons a week, and all of a sudden, it's like any game. You really have to do it, or you lose it. So then, of course, I had a trauma this week. Our Wi-Fi went out in the apartment.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it shows you how incompetent I really am with all these tech stuff. So at 8:30 at night, we had no phones, we had no TV, which was a catastrophe.
I don't know why the TV is even connected to Wi-Fi.
Well, I think that's the only way in this apartment you get it.
Okay.
So at 9 o'clock, I went to sleep because I was so frustrated. I couldn't even use my iPad because to play a game on, to play bridge or canasta. So the next day, the nice gentleman from our building came up and he opens up the closet. First, we didn't know where the main...
that was the problem. Like, I could have unplugged the router and replugged it in.
We did it.
But we didn't know where it was.
The main center was. We kept unplugging the TV, putting it back. Nothing happened. So the next day, he came up at 8:30. I think I called with an emergency call.
Well, I don't know why you had to do it that early because it woke me up.
I don't care. I couldn't do without my television. I had to have it on. So, I mean, a day without Squawk Box in the morning, it just upsets me. So the man came in, he opened up the hall closet. He said, the plug went out of the
That's
Wi-Fi
what I thought.
receptacle.
I just didn't know where to look.
It was just out. So we found out when you took out the umbrella to go, because the weather has been so dreadful.
I don't actually know, but I figured when I took the umbrella out of the closet, it touched it or something.
He plugged it in. We were back alive at 8:35.
I know. It is so frustrating when things don't work. I think I hacked into some other Wi-Fi and was able to watch on my laptop, so it wasn't that bad.
You're happy.
Yeah, but I would have been happier on the bigger TV, but it'll do.
Okay.
But yeah, I feel like the apartment, with the Wi-Fi to the air conditioning.
Well, we have a very old apartment, for those who don't know. So we have an old apartment that has one air conditioning zone. So no matter what bedroom you're in, you can't control it. It comes off a central unit.
Like Poppy likes it much hotter than I do.
Everybody.
And you like it hot too, honestly.
Yes. And you can't regulate it. So it's a frustration, and it's something that I realized that this is the only place that I live that has that. Because every other place I have zones that you can put it on the bedroom and the living room, and you can put it, because sometimes, some people like it at 70, some like it at 74.
Well, also, that's not even that old, because a lot of my friends in the city in New York who live in like pre-wars, they can't control their own temperature. It's like whatever the building sends up, is what it is,
and it gets so hot. Well, that's what
But you can put the ones in the window, then you choose it,
exactly.
Which is why my building's a little newer in New York, and it's nice because my bedroom and my living room have it right there, separate zones. So when I was in New York, I had a cold, so I was like in my house every day. I didn't do much, but I was so excited to control my own thermostat.
You definitely have to stay in New York. You can't live with Poppy and I anymore because he's getting colder and colder. But it was unusual this week. First of all, the weather's been really dreadful. It was dreadful in New York because everyone said it's been really sub-zero. We had snow in parts of Florida. There was snow in New Orleans. It's been 0 degrees and in the teens in New York. And we've had, which is very unusual for Southern Florida, we've had 40s. So it has not been, the month of January has been unusually cold. And of course, you know about California. We don't have to deal with that.
Obviously, we have on our social media
But Kimmy's been great. She's done lots of stuff.
I mean, I'm trying. It's harder from New York. I mean, obviously we can all donate on our phones, and there's amazing charities that we were linking on our stories for all types of
gifts,
resources. But I also I don't know if they're doing it anymore, but I'm sure they are. Like dropping off any clothes or essential items.
Well, that's very important.
There were places to do that in New York where they were sending, and then I know there's a lot in LA. My boyfriend lives in LA, and he said everywhere you can drop things off.
The thing I don't understand though, and I know your boyfriend lives there, I don't understand how people are breathing, because I remember when we had the fires a year ago from Canada, which were 500 miles away, they told everybody to stay inside because the amount of things that are the soot that comes from the fire is really cancer causing. So they had people staying, older people especially, or anybody, or young children.
A few days, right?
Well, it was 2 days for us because the winds blew it away very quickly over the ocean, which we were lucky.
I think it all has to do with the way the wind is blowing. So,
correct. And
for
hopefully
example,
they won't.
Where Zach lives, like his actual neighborhood
is all right.
Like none of the winds are blowing that way. Good. I mean, it changes every few days and everything, but he said only one time where he had to go for a doctor's appointment a little like closer to Beverly Hills, which isn't even one of the really effective areas. He said there he smelled it in the air.
Yeah, well, we remember we came out of theater that night and we saw in New York, and we saw the sky was red.
Yeah.
And I said, oh my gosh, we've been bombed. I had no idea what that was because they really didn't warn us
we didn't even
early.
Hear about
we didn't hear about it. We came out at 10 o'clock and we literally, you could not see in front of you. And it was a terrible odor all over the city. But anyway, we're wishing them well and we're hoping. The problem is going to be, and of course, Grandma's not a weatherman, but I know it's going to happen. They're going to get rains, and then you're going to get the mudslides. And that's where you're going to have terrible damage again. So these poor people, I feel for them. And there's nothing, I guess they love the lifestyle. They love being out there, and their assets have mostly in these areas been completely destroyed. Yeah. And I'm not so sure if they have insurance in these places. A lot of these insurance companies don't cover fire because they're of the frequency of these Santa Ana winds.
Exactly, which is devastating for people who
can't afford it. We're not talking about the Hollywood zillionaires. I mean,
mansions.
I mean those. I feel badly for them,
terrible.
but who cares? But
because no matter what, like even if you have money to buy a new house, like you have memories in a house,
right?
You have
everything,
photo albums and items from family members who might have passed away, and that was all you had from them.
It's terrible.
It is terrible, and this actually brings us to our drama club of the week.
Okay.
You didn't hear it from me, but so Heidi Montag and Spencer Pratt, who were like a famous reality star couple, they lost their home, and they've been talking a lot about that online.
Okay.
And it was like devastating. They were on the hills. Like,
are they raising money for the other people as well, or are they just talking about themselves?
I'm sure they're doing a lot of stuff. It was in the Palisades fire, but I think they were also like displaced, so it was a lot going on. But anyway, there was all this drama because in the aftermath, he was like posting on TikTok saying it would make Heidi really happy if everyone downloaded her song from an old album. No, this isn't bad. This isn't the bad part.
Okay. Oh, that's not the bad part so far. I don't think it's such a nice thing.
Like a nice thing. He was like, people should download her music.
Okay. So she'll make some money.
Right. So they'll make some money, and it's like an exciting, fun thing to bring that back. So it made that song, I think it was from 2010, topping the charts again. And that was like really fun and exciting for them. Spencer texted, Alex Cooper, who has the Call Her Daddy podcast that I like. So he texted her because she obviously has a lot of influence and said, can you post Heidi's song? And I think at first she like didn't answer him. Okay. And then he went online, which I don't think was...
And he badmouthed her.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say that. I didn't know it, but I could just figure it out.
He was like, Alex Cooper didn't respond. Like, the least you could have done is post one thing of my wife's song to your story. and we're suffering after the wildfire, like evacuation and all.
You see, I understand this, and I guess where this is going, but I really think there's so many other dire issues out there that these two people who are reality stars get over it.
Alex Cooper's not a reality star.
No, but this two couple.
Yeah.
And I think the tragedies are the people who have children, their schools burned down, they have no place to go to school. I mean, there are really terrible dramas out there because she didn't put on her record.
And I think she did end up texting back, and she was like, we're housing like a lot of friends right now who are displaced. Like, I'm just getting back to you. She's busy.
She's busy.
But he ended up also, Alex married a guy last year or 2 years ago. So they lived together in LA. And the guy also was a big producer, and they have their company, the podcast company, on Well together. So it's like their joint venture. And so he deals with a lot of Alex's business stuff. And so Spencer texted Alex's husband, Matt, and was like, Alex didn't respond to me. Can you get her to post Heidi's song?
I think that's one of the reasons I don't want to live in LA. This whole group sounds so superficial when all these tragedies are happening.
And I think
What's the end? What's the end, Kim? Sum it up. Half the people listening just don't even know who these two people are.
There was really no end.
Oh.
He just went, I mean, not yet. This is happening now.
Oh.
He went online and badmouthed her essentially and said, I texted the husband, and he said, and then I think Alex maybe did end up posting the song. I don't actually remember.
Please, Alex, post the song for grandma's sake.
I think what ended up also happening was, I don't know if you remember how Alex Cooper on Call Her Daddy, she used to have a co-host, and there was all this drama.
Yes, and then, I remember
the previous co-host, Sophia, she posted the song. So then Spencer was like, I love Sophia. Which also everyone knows the drama between them. So there's a lot of levels here.
All right. Okay. I'm going to laugh at this a little.
Also, Spencer and Heidi sued this was, I think, earlier today, sued the city of LA for losing their home.
Well, I think a lot of people beside these two are going to be suing because there was definitely some fault somewhere that they didn't prepare for these fires. These winds come all the time there. This isn't a once in a lifetime issue
they haven't
that
had one
happens
this
in California.
big in a few years.
But they always have fires.
Yeah.
And they always have the winds. But they were not prepared. They did not cut down a lot of the underbush and the trees. There's going to be plenty of investigations on this.
Yeah.
A lot of people fell short of the correct thing to have done.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's time for the Grandma Report. Let's talk about Oscar nominations. They came out a few days ago. And the big story is Emilia Perez, which I actually watched last night, which is a Spanish language musical drama.
Did you like it?
Yes.
Okay.
I did. Wicked has 10 nominations.
Well, that deserves 10 nominations.
Another standout is The Substance, which is a horror movie with Demi Moore.
And that got really bad reviews as a movie, but which is so fascinating. See, all these subjects.
It's about basically like replacing yourself with the younger version with like Botox and all this
exactly.
stuff.
I mean, the subject matters are so depressing. I mean, where are these people living? What about lovely areas of the country that we could talk about on screen? I don't know why we have to see these dark, dark things.
So back in the day, it was definitely about big stars, blockbusters. Now we're seeing these indie films and even international productions like Emilia Perez really stealing the show.
Yeah.
Do you think the Oscars have lost touch with everyday moviegoers?
Absolutely.
Or is it good to shine a light on those lesser known filmmakers and stories?
You know, I think the whole Oscar has lost their appeal for most of America maybe 5-6 years ago, before COVID even, because the films don't warrant Oscars. They're not great films. And maybe one film comes out a year that's even talkable. I mean, that you want to even talk about.
I mean, great film, somewhat subjective, but even if it's not necessarily the quality of the film, it might just be what you're interested in, but I don't know. But I think that if not film and Hollywood, how else? Otherwise, everyone's just going to be inane if all you're showing is happy-go-lucky blockbuster action.
No, but
flicks.
the thing is, I don't mind all the different entertainment. I think that's wonderful. You have different choices and subject matters, which should be open to everybody. But they don't warrant Academy Awards. That used to be something that was reserved. Now, maybe the actors and actresses warrant it, but the films themselves are not great. It's not like The Godfather, where you saw a tremendously magnificent film on screen with actors that were beyond superlative.
I think also, I don't know because I'm not as plugged in, but like that's a big budget movie.
Oh,
how do you get
absolutely.
a budget like that if you aren't already the top 10 directors?
That I don't know. That I don't know. I'm not privy to anything that goes on in Hollywood. But I must say that they've lost. Certainly the glamour is lost. You know, they wear these young girls put on these outfits, and really who cares, because nobody knows who these girls are except for maybe a few influencers. They're not like you said before, they're not the stars like they used to be. Some of the men are still. I think the men more than the women are really the big high profile stars.
I think the way that the
Beyonce,
stars were
well, it was
made, which is we were kind of
they
saying
were made
this
by studios
in a different episode, but yes, but also like it was the same 5 actors in like every single movie.
Yes, because that's what the public wanted.
Right.
You have to understand the public, and we're talking about a much smaller public than that is now. It was maybe 30 million. Now we have 300 million people watching the screens. But what I'm saying is I think and I'm hoping movies come back. Because it was a wonderful form of entertainment for families. You know, you used to be able to go to a movie for $2 or even $1. Now it's a major cost for a family to go to the movies.
To hit streaming.
Yeah, but you lose the quality of not seeing it on a big screen and not going. That's why the big movies that make a lot of money in the theaters are the ones like Gladiator and Spider-Man and all those that really don't show well on a small screen. Yeah. So, you know, is Hollywood dead? No, they're making money again. Are the theaters almost gone? Yes. And I think that's sad.
I saw a statistic earlier, but I don't have it in front of me. Like it made the nominated films made a few $1 billion.
Oh, that's not bad.
Pretty good.
I don't know how much they spent.
Not that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I doubt that
I don't know.
level. We had some, I mean, Wicked and all of those that made a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, those will be seen. You know, I was listening to somebody on the news the other day.
Did you watch it yet?
No. They were talking about it. He's already taken his children 3 times.
How have you not watched it?
I'm going to say something that's not going to be good. I don't want it to spoil my feeling about the show on Broadway.
Oh, I think
I love the show so much on Broadway that I didn't want to see it in the theater. And I'm going to eventually because the stars are wonderful and everybody says it's great. But I had such fond memories of Wicked when it first came out that, you know, certain things I like to just see the way they were. It's like The Wizard of Oz with Judy Garland.
Right.
I never wanted to see anybody else redo her role.
I don't know if they would reboot that movie.
I don't think they can.
And this is a different adaptation. It's screen versus stage. Right. It's going to feel different.
It's different.
But maybe it adds a new element.
And a new dimension, I'm sure. I'll get to it.
Yeah. Okay, let's do the rewind. What are you watching on TV this week?
You know, nobody watches what I watch. I
but
watch.
They want to know.
All right, they want to know. Then you have to go to Amazon, and I watch all the BritBox murder mysteries. Vera, which is a detective who's been on for 17 seasons.
Oh, wow.
Retired.
Okay.
So last night I watched, thank heavens my TV went back on so I could watch again. They did all with her as the actual actress who's so much prettier than, of course, she played a role of a very stodgy old detective who solved everything. So she talked about the show and the different seasons and the different actors that went along. You know, they all talked about it. I loved it. I love that. I love Murders In, which takes place in all different areas in France. So every Monday or Tuesday it drops a new one, and they must have 1 million of them because every Tuesday they come up with another one. So I sort of like the beautiful scenery. I like the mystery part, and I watch them in all with the subtitles. Even the English ones now I watch with the dubbing on the bottom because their accents are so tricky that sometimes I miss some of the dialogue. So I sort of like it. And It's very entertaining. I don't watch any reality, as you know.
Yes, I am watching reality.
Right. So what's in your profile this week?
So you know Love Island, obviously, that show
Yes,
that I watch
yes.
that's based in the UK. So they also do Love Island All Stars, where it's the best people from previous seasons of Love Island go back to the villa and they all like date each other. And so they actually are adding episodes to Peacock, but I wasn't like, I wanted to watch them before they came out on Peacock, and they were already airing in the UK. So I download this thing on my computer that makes it seem like I'm in the UK, so I can watch.
That's fun.
Like it's the VPN. Like it changes where the computer thinks I am, so I can then watch something that's in the UK. But it was on to me this time, and it was like, we know you're not in the UK. So then I was
have to take out your passport.
I know. I was freaking out about the VPN issues. Ended up figuring it out, but then now they've added most of them to Peacock. Okay, good catching up. So let's get to the interview with Aleeza Ben Shalom.
Okay, can't wait, because you're all going to love her, and she gives really good advice.
We are joined by a very special guest, matchmaker Aleeza Ben Shalom. She's also a reality TV personality, author, and dating coach. Aleeza's Netflix series Jewish Matchmaking, which Grandma and I both watched, was a major hit in 2023, and she continues to influence the dating scene. She has a new book coming out in January 2025 called Matchmaker Matchmaker, Find Me a Love That Lasts. Aleeza, welcome to Excuse My Grandma.
Thank you for having me.
This is so exciting. So you've been doing matchmaking for how long now?
I started in 2007, volunteering and kind of being a matchmaker online.
Mm-hmm.
And then it progressed over the years and turned into this crazy large thing.
Yeah.
Just fabulous. Well, everybody needs a matchmaker now. It was very hard, especially during COVID.
Yeah,
I think
very hard during COVID.
That was really, I think, when your series really had a reason to take off. People were lonely.
Do you feel like this was your calling, or why did you feel like this was the right business for you?
Matchmaking, I think, for all matchmakers is a calling. It's something that people it like wells up within them, and they're like, I just want to help them and I want to stick them together. And I have an idea. And I think it used to be something that was like just normal and commonplace. I don't know, Grandma Gail, maybe you can tell me, like back in the day, were people matching?
I think families used to matchmake more than an individual. It depends what community, of course, you live in. But I really think even in the 50s and 60s when I was growing up, families always put their fingers in. Maybe you'll like my nephew. Maybe I'll like my grandson. And I think it still happens because at
least in my family,
it's a network.
Yeah.
It's a network. And you're doing it on a more independent scale. You don't have to know the families that you're putting together, and I think there's a need for it, and I think you're filling that void.
I think you're right, though. Back in the day, it was families that were making the match.
Right.
And then sometimes there was a community matchmaker that would come in to work with the family, but they weren't working with the singles. I think the difference today is that it's a very modern era. So everybody's independent, right? You go off to college, you do your own thing. You come back, you have your job, you have your own apartment. Like your family's not, you guys are unique.
Yeah.
That your family's really involved in your life. But in general, your family's not involved in your life as much as it used to be.
Correct.
So it now did go down to the individual level. And I'd like to reverse engineer matchmaking. I actually want to go back to either families or more communal involvement in matchmaking.
Well, we can go back to Fiddler on the Roof.
I was going to say, I think that's what everyone thinks of, right?
That's the matchmaker we always think of.
Right.
Which, out of necessity you needed to have in a community.
Yeah. How have they evolved, or the stereotypes
hopefully
still?
Better. Hopefully better.
You mean they don't break out into song?
No.
If we do, we're still singing Matchmaker, Matchmaker.
Exactly.
The younger generation doesn't know about it so much, though. I've done multi-generational crowds and had audiences.
Yeah.
And you have to be over a certain age, but the 20s, you're rare because, again, you have such a close
I'm an old soul. I love
Yeah.
Broadway. Like, I guess not everyone knows the Fiddler references, but
Right.
Well, they should.
they should.
In every society and every tradition, it's all over the world, that particular film and that the message that they share. But with the phone, which is the major obstacle today, you need somebody to put people together because the phones are a disaster. You're swiping constantly, which is something.
Well, that's the idea. Let's say you mean of a dating app. The idea is actually to bring people together. What are your thoughts on dating apps?
I'm pro dating apps. Yeah. I just think that we have to turn you into your own matchmaker. So it's a tool like anything else, and it's a database, which is incredible, but you have very novice people using it. Right. So it's just like, let's just swipe. This is fun. And then they get burnt out, and then they stop dating, and then they go into a 3-year dating deficit, and then they can't continue on. But if you use it like a matchmaker would use it, so my goal, I'll give you a tip. So you're in the dating scene, right?
Well, I'm in a relationship.
You're in a relationship now,
but I give advice all the time, whether I can or not, to my friends and to our audience, obviously. And I'm still giving advice to myself. Like I'm not a pro just because I'm in a relationship.
Yeah, but once you start to get a feel for it, everybody becomes a little bit of a mini pro.
True.
So one of my tips is on the dating apps to do kind of an advanced search, not on the app itself. Usually if it's on a website, you can dig in more and narrow down what you find to under 10 or under 25. Normally you can do a search and you're like, wow, there's 5,082 people in my city. And I'm like, no, but how many of them are relevant for you? So I tell them to put in the most specific, detailed criteria until you can get under 25 people. And you're like, wow, those are the 25 most relevant human beings, according to this database. If you don't like them, then expand it to get 50, then expand it to get 100. Right. Reverse engineer it. Don't go from the most to the least.
Start out least to the most.
Yeah. Any dating app I was on didn't give that number, but I almost wish that it did. Because I feel like then, or it would be the opposite effect of I'm like, okay, I have to meet all 25 in order to feel like one of them is the right one. And 25, that's a lot. I mean, depends on what time period you're doing it. But yeah, I've never seen like the number, but I have seen that I swipe through and then it's like, you have no more matches left. And I said no to everyone. And I'm like, okay, interesting.
Now, would you have swiped differently had you known I only have these 25 and you go through 10 and you're like, oh gosh, I only have 15 left. And you go through another 5, you're like, oh gosh, I only have 10. I better say yes to one of them. Would you have dated differently?
Probably.
Okay, so this is advice to all the dating app owners. Fix the system.
Yeah.
That's right. And we've had a lot of them on our podcast, that's for sure.
Yes.
And they give, they've been modifying their
They're making
formats.
Thousands of matches. The database itself is incredible, and they turned everybody into their own matchmaker, which is really phenomenal. And it's what we need. I believe that everybody should be a matchmaker for yourself and for everybody else in your life, because if you ask somebody, do you know anybody single? There's nobody that's going to tell you no. Right. Older, younger, whether they're single, never married, divorced, widowed, people know somebody single. And the best person to set you up is that person who's in your network already.
I totally agree. I hate when friends say that they have no one to be set up with, because my first question is always, well, have you been asking your friends? And they're like, I don't want to bring it up. I feel awkward. And it's no shame to say, do you know anybody? Because anyone would be grateful, I feel like, to have that.
Oh, to pick somebody up and make them feel like they're important. You're important to them, so they're going to search for a friend that might hit it off with you. Kim is a very bad example of this because she had 100 dates. There's nobody that dated more than her. See, I think that's the problem. I have another issue with the dating now because I think there are too many choices. And, when you have a bowl of fruit on the table and there's so many cherries and blueberries and strawberries, which one do you pick? When I was dating, it was limited. You went on 2 or 3 dates, and your mother used to say, or your father or whoever was your parental advisor used to say, that's enough. Pick one of them.
I heard that.
Well,
I heard it from you. It's not back in the old.
Well, that's because you have the wisdom, but not everybody has.
But not everybody has that person in their ear. There's always something wrong with somebody. And, I'm sure you see that all the time on your group that you've put together. I mean, if you're looking for the perfect person, I don't know where they are.
It's perfect just for you.
Right.
So all of their quirks and the ick and the idiosyncrasies and the things that you don't love, you're like, but I'd rather have that than this other bag of stuff from somebody else that I really can't handle.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like I try to describe that all the time, and I don't
fully get that.
Because I'm like, I'm not looking for Prince Charming. I'm looking for my Prince Charming, which might not be her Prince Charming. And she's still like, no, I don't know.
Well, there are a set of things that I think for each person they have to look for.
What are those set of things?
Well, for me, it would have been probably first thing, am I attracted to him? Secondly,
oh my God, that's BS. That is not your first thing.
Can he afford me?
That's the first thing.
Well, there was no question about it. Can he provide for me the way I want to be provided for? Because I didn't work. That's a very different. That's a very different thing now. I mean, everybody's working and everybody's contributing. But when I got married, the male brought in the money, and I wanted to live a certain lifestyle. So I wouldn't have gone out with somebody that didn't have the ability to provide that. If that's true. I
sneezed on the truth.
Sneezed, so it's true. But I think certainly a religious background for me, not for everybody, but for me at that point, I wouldn't have dated out of my socioeconomic group was basically who I looked at. And you could have been the most perfect person, but didn't fit in that group. It wasn't for me. And I had a mother who butted in. And if she didn't think that was the guy that was going to make me happy, even though I might have been crazy about him, she said, that's a no-go.
And
I listened to it.
How many people did you date-ish?
Oh, I dated a lot.
But not 100.
Yeah, but you must say dating.
Can we rewind 5 minutes ago when she said she dated so much? Kim was on every day. And meanwhile.
No, I dated in high school and I dated in college. I'm not saying it was 80 or 100, but certainly 4 or 5 people in my college that I really, really liked and went out with.
4 or 5.
Yeah. Okay, that's different. I take it back.
Yeah. No, because we didn't do mass dating. You dated within a group.
Well, there wasn't social media that existed.
None.
So you didn't have the whole world at your feet.
Exactly.
You just had your world at your feet, which was who was in your high school, who was in your university, and who was in your social circles.
Exactly.
Outside,
that was it.
Outside of that, nothing existed.
We didn't know anybody else.
Right. Right. That was it.
But you're talking about a different time. You really can't go back to pre-phones. That to me is the biggest change in our society and also in our dating and in our life. And the problem I have, Aleeza, is if you look at the people on the phone, do you give them a second chance if you don't like the way they look? And sometimes that's the least important thing that you really have in a relationship.
Say it, but I'm pretty sure you have a date 'em till you hate 'em philosophy.
Yeah, that's my philosophy, which basically means if it's not a hard no, like a hell no, then it's just a yes for another date. You don't have to marry them.
Right.
I don't even need you to like them, but you should go out with them again to see if something can be there, if something can grow.
Agree with that.
First dates are sometimes a disaster, and sometimes there's chemistry, and people are like, yeah, I want that first date where it like hits. And I was like, yeah, but for me, that's a red flag.
Right.
Because those really awesome first dates usually are like fireworks, like amazing, and then it's like crash and burn. I know we have like 10 days until it's just like, oh yeah, it didn't work out. And you're like, okay, what's the story? And like, but I want to feel like that, except I just want it to work out.
Yeah.
I was like, but that's just not a normal dating thing. It doesn't usually happen that way. Anything extreme on either end, like extreme disinterest or extreme interest, is usually a red flag for me. It's somewhere in the middle, like, well, you're somebody I could be friends with. Well, I like you. But I mean, do I like you, right? And then it grows over time. I love when best friends get together because I know that they know how to build a relationship because they've been friends. I think that those things are fabulous.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I feel like, and myself included, everyone I talk to is looking for that immediate connection. And I would think that if you have someone where you're like, I like their personality, but do I like them? You would think that if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. But I don't think that is the case. And so how do you kind of get that into people's head?
So date 'em till you hate 'em is one beginning philosophy that starts with that. But what I usually ask is, would you be okay hanging out with them again? Could you see them as a friend? A friend is somebody that you know, that you trust, that to some degree you value, whether they're similar, different, however they are, but there's a value there. If you have a baseline of somebody that you could trust as a friend or that you might like as a friend, then you have a basis for something that might be able to be a healthy relationship.
And let's say you're at 10 dates and you're like, okay, it still doesn't give me butterflies. It still is in the friend category. Then what?
I'm still waiting for those butterflies. I mean, that's so interesting. You keep bringing that butterfly concept up, and I think that's such nonsense.
It's an umbrella term, I think, for
I don't
connection.
think it is. I don't think the young people today are watching too much of that rom-com. Nobody has those butterflies, or if they have them, it's probably with a bad guy that titillates
but
them.
I think something that's like crazy passion, yeah, maybe that's with the bad guy or the rom-com, but I think like I have butterflies in my relationship, and I don't think that's crazy.
Good. That's very nice. I can honestly say I don't think that's a prescription for a long-term relationship.
What do you have if you don't have butterflies? Can you describe it?
Well, I think we had mutual respect. We liked each other. We had mutual interests.
Liked?
No, we don't have mutual interests anymore. But we're talking about a long-term relationship. When you're in your 20s, I got married, I was 21. So what I had at 21, I don't have at 82. It's just not the same. You're not thinking on the same pattern. For most of us, we were looking to have children right away. Those were all criteria of what a relationship should be. Is that a person who I'd like to have as a father of my children? Could he be a good father, a good provider? Is again the answer, because if you don't have the economics in the mix, you're going to suffer because you can't make that up. You have to decide that that's not going to be part of my life.
What's interesting is that you never once said love. You said
I think love
provider.
grew. I think love grew. Love grew.
So
I think love grew. I don't think I was passionately in love when I got married. I think I liked him and I knew we could make a life together. Was it passionate? No. But as we grew together and had experiences, yes, the love became serious and really wonderful and meaningful. Passion was not part of it. I had passion with somebody else, but I didn't marry that person. So it was what I wanted and how I knew I could live, which was very important.
So something that's at the root of what you're saying is a Jewish, belief and wisdom, which is that love grows over time. But why? Because at the root of the word love in Hebrew, ahava, is to give. The meaning of it is to give. And how do we develop love? We develop love by giving. Mm-hmm. So the more that you give over the course of time, the more that you will love the partner that you're with. So, you're with somebody. Do you love them? I don't know. I don't know where you are in your relationship, but let's say somebody was in an early stage relationship. Do you love them? Oh, yes, I love them. Is your love as strong as her love for her partner? No way. Mm-hmm. Why? Because you haven't had the quantity of time to do that. We're married 22 years. Mm-hmm. Is my love as strong for my husband as hers is for hers?
Exactly.
At 61 years? It can't be. It can't be.
Right.
I love him. Of course I love him. You love your partner. Of course. But you've had 61 years of giving and he's had 61 years of giving.
Exactly.
That's what grows the love, the length of time. So it's not about more or less love, but you do continuously give and therefore develop a deeper love over time.
I feel like the whole dating, relationship, matchmaking process is so interesting, which obviously why you had a whole Netflix show about it. How did that come about?
So there was a show, Indian Matchmaking.
Yes.
You saw it?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
It's Jewish matchmaking, just Indian matchmaking.
Right.
I watched it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
And then they said, wow, this was amazing. Let's do a spinoff. We'll do a sister brand and we'll do Jewish matchmaking. So they went on a hunt for a Jewish matchmaker and I started interviewing. And that was in summer, fall of 2020.
Right.
And then by 2021, they're like, okay, we're really going to do it. And by 2022, we started filming and then it released in 2023.
Now, how many matches on the show really became matches? I watched a little bit of it, the first few ones, and I laughed. I mean, I was thinking to myself, this is wonderful, but did some of them really end up happily matched?
So everybody made an effort, and I told them not just on camera, you must commit to me that you're going to go out off camera too.
Right.
And they were amazing. They did.
Okay.
They didn't develop into a long-term relationship, but everybody made a sincere effort. Right. And then when you see somebody off camera, it's very different than on camera.
Oh, yeah.
And there's somebody from the show that is, I'm not saying which person, but who I matched after the show.
Okay.
And they just got married.
Oh, that's so you had to say yes.
So, but you don't get to show it on the show, but I was so happy. And neither of them, wanted to make a big deal out of it, but it was such a blessing. I was like, wow. And I would have never known them had it not been for the show because we got, interconnected.
Right.
It was amazing.
Did the matchmaking process change being on camera, or do you think that even the dates went differently because they were being filmed?
at first people are a little uncomfortable. Like imagine you guys start talking on mics, your first few episodes, okay. After a while, you're just sitting there having a conversation. Camera. Yeah, I mean, there happens to be a microphone there. Sometimes you say something, you're like, oh my gosh, wait, that's being recorded. And then you remember after the fact because you're not used to being filmed.
Right.
So I think most people eased up, although I could see some people were like a little bit uncomfortable at first or even nervous, but sometimes they were good nervous. Like you could see they were like excited about the date and they were like you just saw it for real. So it's not real. It's reality. There were no lines. Nothing was scripted.
And you edit some things, I'm sure.
And they cut and paste everything together. You have an hour and a half meeting of which you see 5 minutes.
The woman with the Bachelorette says, they can edit stuff. Yeah. I mean, they make it more interesting. I mean,
correct.
It would be really boring, a lot of these putting
They grab the best lines, they grab the best shots, and they can also piece a conversation together. You might have laughed like, ha, 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 and then you might have laughed, ha, 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 and they can grab that big one and replace it.
Of course.
But for us at least, they tried to stick to the authenticity of who the people are. You just see sometimes like one side, like their storyline is such, and you don't get the other side. There's many sides to people. They're multifaceted. But what you saw was accurate. The people that you meet on the show, I met in person. I was like, yeah, they are like that. But they have more to who they are.
Of course.
I don't know if there was plans for season 2 or if there is, but is that something you would want to do?
So definitely I would do it.
Yeah.
Nothing is in the works at this moment, but at any time I think that could shift and change. But there's definitely plans in the works to be doing.
Well, maybe after this podcast, everybody's going to write into Netflix. We need her again.
We need a cameo.
Right.
That's the case. I want to hear about your new book coming out. You have 2 books already written. So how is this one different?
So my first 2 books I self-published. The first one's called Get Real, Get Married, and it's all about getting over your hurdles and under the chuppah, which I think that you'd appreciate.
I'd probably go right along with it.
All of my books are very practical, real advice, and it's not just like you're reading something, you're like, oh, that's nice. There's homework. There's what to do. There's concepts that you can implement in your life. This book, Matchmaker Matchmaker, Find Me a Love That Lasts.
It's so pretty.
Love it.
So this is different than my other books because this one tells stories. So you're meeting clients. You're hearing about my clients. You're hearing their whole story, and then
more like the Netflix, more like
it's kind of like getting a piece of the show through a book,
right?
And then at the end, you're hearing Aleeza throughout the whole thing, and then you have like, okay, great, but here's how you take it home. Okay. Like at the end of the chapters, there's always a tip of what to do and how to do it in your life.
Oh, I like that.
And it's really to me, you can really implement something. Like I think it's really fabulous that it's take home advice, and it's not just that you read it and you're like, oh, that's nice, but what does it do for me? It actually does something for you. And for most people, there's kind of like a brain shift. Like I talk about soulmate clarity. I talk about the 5-date challenge. Grandma Gail, you might like this one. No touching for the first 5 days.
Well, I didn't touch till I got married.
I didn't either.
That includes
high five. I mean, that one is not even a whole concept at that time.
That includes kissing, though, right?
No, kissing we kiss.
No, I didn't though.
She came from an Orthodox thing.
I grew up secular.
Right,
I grew up, probably Jewish conservative, but
that's what
became observant in my 20s.
I did. I must say, I kissed. I kissed, but certainly not live together. I mean, that would never have.
But your no touch rule, that's for everyone that you're giving
Jewish,
to.
not Jewish, everybody, every age, every stage, and I modify it just for the first 5 dates because I have a theory that if you don't like the human being, it doesn't matter what they physically feel like. It's completely irrelevant data that makes your brain really confused, and like all those sparks, great, we have amazing chemistry. I mean, I don't like their values and I don't like what they stand for and I don't like this and I don't like that, but like, oh wow, do I really feel it? Well, what do I care that you feel that? Because it's irrelevant because it's not a human being you would live with, that you would want to build a life with, that you would trust with your like, would you blend your finances with them? No, I'd never trust them, right? But like, it feels great to be in the relationship. Well, that's really irrelevant data.
Right.
After the first 5 dates, you like them, they like you actually want to go on a 6th date. I know you already both like each other. So you don't have to be a psychic, and you don't even need a matchmaker to tell you that. Just date without touching for 5 dates, and then we'll know if both sides are in. If somebody dumps somebody, so people say, they're like, but if I would have whatever with him or her, then maybe they would have stuck around. I was like,
No.
Yeah, but it's still irrelevant data. They would have stuck around for the wrong reason. They don't like you as a human being.
Right.
They don't like you.
Yeah.
They don't like you. Yeah, they want to be in the bedroom with you, but they don't like you.
Right.
Like, that should bother you.
Yeah.
And you should want to know if somebody actually likes you.
Or actually sees you as you are.
Yeah. And
That's-
appreciates you and
appreciates you.
values you.
Yeah.
And if they do, so great. After date 6, 7, 8, like, I know we're going somewhere with somebody that has real potential on both sides. It's mutual because one side will dump the other before a 5th date or 6th date if they don't actually like the human being. So this takes care of, like, I mean, for the men, it's great. I'm going to tell you why. They don't have to keep paying for dates if they are being gentlemen and they are paying for dates. For women, it's great. You don't have to waste your time. Does he like me? It's very easy. Either he does or he doesn't.
Right.
And you can thank me later, but your 6th or 7th date or whenever you want to bring physical touch into the relationship, it's much better. You know, like the whole concept of Kama Sutra and other things that hold back the sexual tension in a relationship, it builds. So it's not worse, it's better. I fix the problem all around and everybody's like, but I don't like that answer. I was like, okay, good for you. But, you know, because it actually works.
Physicality, obviously important. Not even just the sexuality, but like, do I feel like when I'm holding their hand, does it feel nice? Does it make me feel secure? All of these things. But I think it's really just slowing down the entire process. Like, it's not like you're never going to get there. It's just happening
5
on
dates.
date 6.
That's it. Just try 5 dates without it. And then also, are you really going to feel secure on a 2nd date?
Right.
And
No.
the security you feel by holding his hand on a 2nd date, does it come from a place of truth?
Right.
It comes from a place of nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Like, he's maybe just in it to get something from you. Or we don't know. You know 2 dates, like 5 hours. How much information do you actually know about them? Compared to after going out 5 dates, you have a number of hours under your belt and you've not been doing other things. So you actually had to talk. You actually, I mean, in more observant circles, they're getting engaged by date 10.
Right.
Sometimes even sooner.
Yeah.
Why? But because they've talked about everything, where they want to live, what kind of family they want to raise, where they come from, does the money and the everything matter, and what's good for them and the life they want to build. They've already dreamt that out. And if their vision is in alignment, they're like, yeah, let's move ahead.
Move ahead.
Yeah.
Exactly. Kimmy and I always have this conversation. After 6 months of really dating and really talking and understanding each, what gets better? I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
So either you're going to commit or move on. There's no point dragging things out. I often listen to her say, oh, friends were living together for a year or 2 years, and all of a sudden they break up.
Yep.
What took them so long? I mean, you basically could know that within 3-4 months of really dating seriously.
And you don't touch, you can know it within 5 days.
Exactly.
Like, our values are really
something
in
is
line.
not right.
And by 6 months, I have a theory also. I don't care, again, age, background, affiliation, nothing matters. Within 6 months, you should know if this is a human for you or not. If you don't and you're confused, then the question is, why are you confused?
Right.
Well, when you're dealing with the human being who you are and physically how you make me feel, now it's confusing. But if we got into it first by, I like you as a human, baseline, again, I could be a friend with you, I could trust you, you're a really good human. And wow, we could build a romantic and lifestyle together. Wow, we can take this forward. Now we have something, and you could figure all that out in 6 months. You don't have to do anything about it.
Right.
Yeah.
But
at least know in your
knowing,
mind.
yes,
Exactly.
yes, you should be able to know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Let's say these are the rules that you're living by. Do you have to tell that to the other person?
No. Well, you mean tell them that you're not touching for the first 5 dates? Yeah, in modern day, it would be a little awkward. Right. You could blame it on me. You'd be like, I heard this podcast. And excuse my grandma with Aleeza. Right. She has this thing where you shouldn't touch for 5 dates. I'm trying it out. Let's play a game.
Yeah, and if the guy or whoever it is like, nah, I don't want to do that, then maybe that's not your person.
Okay, so I will just tell you, the men that are for real, and I've talked to men in college in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s plus, they have all said to me, Aleeza, 5 dates, if I like her, I'd go 10 dates. I'd go 20.
Exactly.
Okay, so you want to know if they're for real? They're for real. And if they don't want to play your game, then they're not for real.
Really not
and they're not
for
really
you.
interested in you. It's not that they're not for real. It's just that they're not for you. And it's clarity. And they're like, but maybe I could convince them. And I was like, that's a bad plan. If they're really not into you, it's just not going to work. We can just let this go.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really a hard pill to swallow, because that means that every person that you're meeting, you're going, oh, they're not for me. Oh, they don't like me. But it's supposed to be that way. You should, in matchmaking, you should have a 99% fail rate and a 1% success rate. That's matchmaking. That's how we know it's the right person.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's
there's so many similarities across all cultures and age groups and whatever, but also, of course, some differences. Are you living in Israel right now?
Yes.
Okay, so how do you think the culture is different there? And then I also want to get into like what it's like living there now.
So right now, I think Israel, and I think it's always been this way, it's more traditional in terms of advancement in many areas, technology especially. We're like way beyond.
Way ahead of
yeah,
everybody.
way beyond. In terms of home, family, lifestyle, we are really firmly rooted in family. So it's just normal. You know, you live at home until you get married and then you move out. But hey, still, we come home for meals. We visit with family. Family is a very important part of our life. And if you get out of your 20s without being married, it's like, why? You know, like it's go to school, go to the army, get married. That's it. And you build your job and family and lifestyle.
And rules make it easier. See, in this case, and I'm only going to interject this because I do believe in this, when you have certain rules that you have to follow, certain norms, not even rules, it's much easier to do it. When you don't have any rules like we have here, like you could be in your 40s and have children now. Nobody thinks about it even twice. You know, it's not great maybe for the woman, but there's no taboos anymore here. In certain societies, such as Israel, I would even think Japan, I would say other closed societies, more so than the United States or Britain or whatever, you have to follow a set of really traditional things in society. And it's easier to blame it. Well, that's the way my parents do it. That's the way my family does it. And you can blame that so you don't get out of a relationship as easily, that you stay there.
I mean, easy, I understand. But if it doesn't feel authentic to you, if you feel like it's not.
I don't think people analyze that much.
I don't know. I think there are people who are living in communities that are like, this isn't for me. And it's really hard to get out of that.
Well, I think certainly we've heard that. Aleeza can talk more about that. Certainly many of the very, very ultra-Orthodox, the women are leaving, not in droves, but they are leaving because they feel that they're not given enough freedom. And good for them. They should leave if they're able to. I don't love the fact that they're not. A lot of the schools are not standardized in those communities. I think the education is not as good as it could be, just going to religious schooling and not secular, and no college education for women at a certain point. I think that's wrong. But that's my feeling. That's not maybe their feeling. They're living within a community that does it and is happy with it. But like you say, I don't think it's for everybody. And if you have the opportunity to leave the society without being basically ostracized, I think that would be a major improvement, actually, in my feeling, for some of these very, very ultra-Orthodox communities.
Mostly in Israel, though, we have a very
it's much
well. There's a
Israel
very,
is different.
Yeah, it's very broad. So we have secular, traditional, religious. There's left, right, and center religiously.
Absolutely. Certainly Tel Aviv, for sure.
Correct, and Tel Aviv as well is one of the most progressive cities. So we have many different types of Jewish people represented,
Which is good.
But family and community, like living
Stays
over there
the
for the last 3.5 years, it's so rooted in that. Like literally our life, our week. Even if you're not Sabbath observant, in most communities, there's a concept of having this day off. Everything slows down. Many shops or all shops are closed depending on the city. And it's like, go home, go be with your family. Like in our community, some people are religious, some people are secular, and everybody buys their challah on a Friday night before to have on Friday night. Like they go out Friday afternoon, they get their challah, they go home, they have a family meal. And because life is centered around family, so getting married is like, oh, but of course I want to do that. And of course that's a high priority because I want to have family, because I want to build, because I want to have community, I want to be a part of it. So, and we believe in independence and individualism and doing what we need to do for ourselves, and at the same time not losing family, which is at the root and the core of who we are as a people, is to be centered around our family and our communities. And that's what builds the world. Independence doesn't build our world.
Right.
You know, you want to live your own life, do your own thing, that's okay. But when you're not here, there is no future generation. Right. So building a family builds that, and we can live from generation to generation.
And Israel also really offers much more education for women. They are very big on that. You know, it's not like some of the places that you go to in very structured societies. Israel, you know, the more you learn, the better you are. I mean, there are always some people within society
very
that keeps
advanced.
women, but they're very advanced.
And very advanced, and whatever degree or whatever you want to study, you can do.
Right.
We have, women in the government. We have women, I mean, with female soldiers. We have everybody everywhere.
All of this, do you think, contributes to the strength of how Israel is and how it's standing strong right now?
I think that community and family is probably at the backbone, at the core of who we are as a people. Being there has been very empowering. And, when I used to live in Philadelphia and you'd look kind of from the outside and say, like, oh, what's going on over there? And like, oh, my heart goes out to them. I feel so bad. And you feel so powerless. And over there, everybody's doing something, wherever you need help. If somebody needs food, you need to take somebody in, or if somebody had to move, it's a whole community effort. And it's really, really beautiful, really incredible.
Okay, I want to move on. There's some listener questions. I think we can get to maybe 2 of them. This one I thought was good. So, do you have advice for people in interreligious relationships? Jewish people with non-Jewish people, whatever it may be.
So it's not my area of expertise. My area of expertise is within like a singular background. The biggest challenges that we see within interfaith relationships is that there's no backbone and there's no grounding. Like, well, which side do we pick and what do we do and whose holidays and whose houses? And then you see children who are saying, but who am I and what am I? Right? So my advice would be pick a side, right? Which you choose.
Correct.
Pick a side, which religion, which basis, which foundation do you want? And then raise your family in that way. And if somebody wants to choose something later in life, okay, fine. But at least from the baseline, a child and a family can answer, well, who are you? Right. Well, what is your background? Well, what do you believe? Somebody could answer that as opposed to, I don't know. I'm a little bit of everything.
Minded when I'm 18.
I'm everything and I'm nothing.
Right. I agree with that. Oh, I absolutely agree. I think that that's one of the things when interfaith relationships really get to a point where you're talking and you're being serious, you have to make a decision. I'm going to raise my child as such and such or whatever, because it's very important to have some kind of grounded life together. And I do believe it. I believe in conversion. Whether you convert to Catholicism, you convert to Christianity, somebody has to say, you know what, for the sake of the family, we're going to do this together, and we're going to raise our family.
It's people who are totally not religious at all, right?
Well, that could be. Then if you're not, which many aren't, because they, then I hope that they expose the children to both cultures. So that then when they are able as adults, they can choose something, because everybody needs some kind of religious thoughts, whether it be Buddhist or Confucius or Jewish or Catholic or Presbyterian. You need to have some kind of code of ethics.
I would think about it like this. When you go for a degree, right? You can focus and get a degree in one area. You might get a major and a minor, right? You could get a dual degree, whatever you're going to get.
Correct.
But you don't go to school and study everything and come out having studied everything and know everything, because it's nothing.
Right.
What are you certified in? What can you do? Who can you help? So in the same way for a family, like, well, what are you? It's not everything. You're not everything. You're something. What is that something that you are? Define what that is and find a partner to build a life like that that's unified.
Okay, next question. Guy cancels first date due to work. Agree to reschedule or hard no?
Right. Not my favorite. So I would say life happens. And by me, I would say, okay, I'm cautious, right? I would agree to reschedule. If they mess up a second time, it's going to be very hard for me to say yes to a third time, because then I'm just going to say, what are your priorities? And why, don't you have the ability to schedule around your life? And why is your work more important than finding a partner and building a life? Because if they schedule you out once and they schedule you out twice, then you can imagine what your married life is going to be like.
I sort of agree with that. I think it's very hard for young people in their early 20s when it's so rigorous that all work today. No matter what job you're at, it's almost a 24/7 kind of job.
Yeah.
And I think when you're in your early 20s, somebody has to forgive a canceling of a first date. But I agree. After the second date of being made, and if they canceled, then I wouldn't give them a third date. That would not be. But I think people have to be a little understanding now of work schedules. And you get a boss that has, I don't know if they're clueless or they have no idea that a young man or a woman doesn't want to be in the office till 9 o'clock and getting a ride home from their office in an Uber. Who cares? They have no life. And that very often is the case with some of these young professionals today.
My ex cheated on me, so I left him, but I really miss my friend and want to hang out with him.
That's a no for me.
I think you have other friends, right?
Yeah, you
Listen,
should.
I think that the person needs to mourn the loss of this friend because, and I love what you said, I miss my friend, right? So there was a friendship there and a relationship there. Even though the relationship is gone, you could never be friends with them again because you still like them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they probably still have something towards you. Love that was once there doesn't disappear. And a relationship that was once there can't just disappear into nothing. And you should find a different, yes, you miss your friend. Great.
That's
You
life.
can mourn about it, cry about it. You can go to therapy about it.
Right.
You should definitely find other friends. But getting back into something with them is not going to be healthy.
That's great advice. Okay, really quick game of Grandma Gail's old-fashioned dating quiz. Already know where Aleeza's going to love
Yeah, this is almost a no-brainer, Kim.
Okay, we'll see whether you're traditional or modern. It's rapid, yes or no. Or
And it's
answers.
nothing personal, what you think.
Okay.
Call or text if it's just to say hi from your partner.
I don't like this question. Call or text? Well, a call is more personal.
Okay.
But if you can't do a call, still text and at least like a picture, an emoji.
Would you sleep with someone on the first date?
No.
Dating apps or setups?
I prefer setups.
Would you move in together before getting engaged?
No.
She's not going to move in even after she's getting engaged.
She's right.
So forget it. Forget it.
By the way, do you ask parents' permission before getting engaged?
I love that.
Mhm.
I mean, it's more I would rather ask for their blessing than their permission.
Right.
Right? Like just I'm asking
That's
for
a
your
better way of
blessing, not
even
for your
talking
permission.
about that question. That's a very
Would
nice.
you ask for their blessing?
Yeah, because I'm not asking. I made my
Right.
decision. They made their decision.
Right, exactly.
We want your blessing. Oh, you didn't give it? Well, I still asked.
Yeah.
We're getting married. Come. You should come to the
You
wedding.
should be there.
Okay, should one person pay for the date or should you split, alternate?
One person pay, and if it's alternating, the man should priority pay, and the woman every once in a while she wants to treat him, do something special
Right.
with something important in mind. Where I want to take him, and all her. It's me. It's my treat. When we treat, we
Right.
give.
Mhm. Okay, I
Love
think
it.
you're traditional.
We don't even have to go on.
Aleeza, thank you so much for being here. Tell everyone when they can get your book.
Oh, and your book is coming out, right?
Yeah. So you can grab the book anywhere, your favorite bookseller on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, anywhere that you want. It is called Matchmaker Matchmaker. Find Me a Love That Lasts. You can find me at AleezaBenShalom.com, and I'm online at Aleeza Ben Shalom, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, wherever you are, I am too. And I'd love to connect.
Great.
Thanks for joining, and thanks everyone for watching. Follow us. We're Excuse My Grandma, also everywhere that you are, and we will see you soon.
Bye.